How is social media affecting us? How is it serving us? In what ways could social media be affecting your relationship? Have that conversation with your partner. Is social media affecting your children? Is it affecting your relationship with your children? You spend too much time inside your house and you don't go out. Things in the world start to scare you. They give you anxiety. You feel uncomfortable. If you put the phone down, if you stop doing social media for 1 week, will it destroy your business?
This is the Podcast in the Rough. Tune in every Friday for new adventurous episodes.
Welcome back to another great episode of the Podcast in Rough. This is episode 150, and I'm your host, Zebulon Thomas. 150th episode. I'm really excited to hit this point in this podcast, in this season, if you will, season 5. And this season 5 has been dedicated more towards mental health, and I've been sharing with you a lot about my journey, a little bit about my successes and what, success has done to my mental health, how it's affected me, how it served me, and to kind of help you avoid those pitfalls. But today, I have a ticket for you. This is the ticket, right? The ticket to help you unleash your wellness, right? Like to move forward into a better you, a better version of you, your highest self, and a more mindful way of living. Today, I want to talk about the conversation. We have to have the conversation with our friends, the conversation with our partner, the conversation with our kids. And that conversation is, how is social media affecting us? How is it serving us? Like, sit down and ask the question, because it's starting to spill over. And it's not just me. You might have witnessed this or you felt it, but it's other big content creators as well that are realizing that social media is very toxic. And it's toxic why? I will give my opinions on why I feel social media is toxic. The problem is social media has become controlled, and I'm not even going to say by whom. It's controlled. It has an agenda. It's designed now to keep us engaged, is designed to get us to feed it, whether we're feeding it our time or our money. And ultimately, it wants your time and your money. Big influencers have been starting to notice this and share this. I saw an influencer the other day that had millions of followers on TikTok and their views were down. And they said, there's no way that should be the case. And they showed their Instagram with a significantly lower amount of followers on their Instagram, yet their numbers were a lot higher. So they're doing better on one platform and sinking in the other. And it's only because they got to a point where they're not paying now. And they even said that. They said, they want my money to get me the exposure. So they said, if you're not going to pay, then we're not going to share you. The algorithm's not going to serve you. There's no algorithm to serve you if you don't pay that. And if you're new, it's going to make you feel like you're new. And it's like, we're going to pump you up for a few weeks and then you're going to feel like, oh, this platform loves me. It's great. And then it's going to fall off. And they're going to hit you with all these little options to do this and get this badge, or do this and hit this goal, or do this and pay a little money and reach these many people. Like, it's designed to take your time and money. So that goes back to this conversation that we have to have with our friends, our partner, and our kids. What is it that social media is actually doing for us that moves us forward? If you're a content creator, how is it moving you forward? How is it really moving you forward? I want you to really think about that question. And I want you to talk about it amongst your circle of friends and family. And I want you to talk to your kids about it. How is social media affecting them? Are you filtering social media for them, depending on their age? Are you just letting them turn on YouTube and just browse and do whatever they want? Because they're being exposed to things that they should not be exposed to. And have you taken the time to lock that social media down? Have you taken time to limit their exposure to these things? Have you talked to them about what to expect online? Have they come to you with questions? Do you have answers to those questions? Listen, social media is here for the long haul, and it's going to evolve, and it's going to be great, but it's also going to, with everything, it's going to be good, it's going to be bad. But I look at it as, if it's frustrating you, you need to pull back. Or you need to figure out why it's frustrating you. If you're a content creator, is it frustrating you because you're trying really, really hard to get the exposure and the reach and you want to grow and you don't know why, and so you're feeling less than, you feel like you're not doing a good enough job. Maybe you're not a super creative and you're doing the best you can and it's still beating you against the rocks. And so you feel left out, you're not engaging, you're like, no one wants to see it. That's not the case. It's the algorithm. It's because you haven't paid, you haven't played, you haven't served enough time. I talked about this in the last episode. You haven't spent enough time on these platforms to make them feel like, okay, you're playing the game. Like if you want a high score, you got to really work at it. You got to play the game for hours. You got to dedicate your time to this. You got to figure out the strategies. You got to research now. You can just go on social media. It's not like the old days, depending on how old you are. It's not like back in MySpace days, if you will, where you could just jump on there, create a profile, meet a whole bunch of people, interact. There's no real algorithm pushing you. It's just by chance you follow and you find someone, or you recommended, or you search. Like, it's not the same. They figured it out. It really comes down to the fact that maybe you haven't played the game. You haven't tried to go for the high score. You haven't liked a bunch of people's content. You haven't shared it. You haven't viewed a bunch of stories and reels. You haven't liked it. You haven't commented on it. You haven't went and subscribed to a bunch of YouTube channels or followed a bunch of people. You haven't spent enough screen time on this platform for it to know that it should favor you. I want you to think about these things. And we need to have this conversation. Is social media affecting you? How is it affecting you? Good or bad? Is it affecting your relationship? Good or bad? In what ways could social media be affecting your relationship? Maybe think about that question and have that conversation with your partner. Is social media affecting your children? Is it affecting your relationship with your children? How is it affecting that? And I think when we start to ask these questions, we start to really navigate this realm of social media, these waves that come in, right? This stock market. And I think we'll be able to better combat this on a daily grind, if you will. And I also don't think you should engage in social media daily. But I think it's one of these things where if you're already dealing with mental health and you're trying to get better, you're trying to improve this part of your life, or you've experienced social media burnout in some way, or you just kind of need to fill a new void, or you're trying to shift your life and say, what now? What do I do at this stage? What do I inspire to do and want my life to be about? And how does social media play a role in any of that? And where does it fit in? And maybe it does fit in. Listen, it doesn't mean that you're not going to become a big star or somebody, or a big public person, or get your brand huge exposure on social media. It's possible, but it's a lot harder. And so I'm looking at these things from like a 30,000 foot view, because I'm analyzing everything that I do and trying to optimize everything. And when I mean optimize, I don't mean like social media optimization. I mean like, how can I make my life better? Spend the most time doing the things I want to do, spend less time doing the stuff that I don't want to do. What am I feeding my mind on a daily basis? What am I allowing my mind to race into? How to center that and still be a creative and feel like I'm still moving towards my purpose in life. And so I share this openly because I want to start the conversation on this podcast in the comments, and hopefully it radiates out into your conversations with your friends, partner, and children. Like, I look at these things and I start to think differently, because I feel like we're always so tied up in these screens. We're just staring at the screen all day long that we never really get to look around. And like, you see the examples of when we look up, of when we don't look at our screens and we go, wow, this is life. And unfortunately, it's usually when there's a tragedy, something like a 9/11, something like a pandemic. It gets us to think, whoa, like, wow, I was doing all this. Like, so many people during the pandemic were coming home from work, laid off, or didn't have a job anymore. And they were like, dang, I didn't know I was grinding this much. I didn't know I worked this much. I will never sacrifice my time again. I want to be with family. I like this. It's almost they got like a little experience to what maybe retirement might look like for them. And then they realize, what, I got to figure out this now. And a lot of them retired. A lot of them said, I'm not going back to this grind. I'm going to start my own thing. And they became entrepreneurs, started their own business because they wanted to. Some didn't have the option to, and they had to. A lot of my success, it wasn't because I wanted to. It's because I had to. I had to succeed. If I failed, it would be bad. I couldn't survive if I failed. So I had to keep giving all my efforts and energy and time to succeeding as an entrepreneur. And I failed more than I've succeeded, but the success is huge. I want you to think about your life and the things you're doing and go, okay, what if I put my phone down for a week? What can I accomplish? Can I get a better body? Will I work out more? Can I be more aware of my food intake? Can I eat better? Will I spend more time with my friends and family, my children? Will I have more time to myself, maybe to read that book? Will I be able to create something else that gets me out of that 9 to 5? Will I be able to create something that maybe changes the world? All because I decided to put my phone down, step away from social media. And then there's the fear of like, if I step away from social media, oh boy, there's a lot of fears there. The algorithm's going to know. My followers are going to be like, where'd you go? I'm going to tank. People are going to just move on, forget about me. The algorithm's going to forget about me. It's going to move on, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to lose my momentum. I guess that's the same in business too. It's the same in your personal life, right? You lose the momentum. You don't spend enough time with your kids, right? You start to lose that connection. You got to rebuild it. You have to work at it. You don't spend enough time with your significant other. Guess what? They're going to find time with someone else, or they're going to find time doing something else. And you're going to have to rebuild that. You're not only going to rebuild that, you got to build a new understanding of the relationship. It's a new relationship at that point. Depending on how long you go, it's a new person in front of you. Maybe you've been out of the loop too long. You spend too much time away from your family and friends, and you're engaged in your work so much, you forget how to socialize. You forget what that feels like. You spend too much time inside your house and you don't go out. Things in the world start to scare you. They give you anxiety. You feel uncomfortable. But it's also true if you spend a lot of time in that. It becomes something you're obsessed over, or it becomes something you're really good at, or you understand, and you're not afraid anymore. And you navigate really, really well in these waters. Like maybe you're a person that's like, I don't really like crowds, but you start spending a lot of times in crowds because maybe your job or what you like to do in life puts you in those situations with a lot of crowds of people. And I'm speaking from experience. I'm the same way. I'm like, little anxiety to go to this event. But then I get to the event. I'm like, oh my gosh, I love being amongst all these people. Whether I'm talking to them or not, I'm just feeling the energy of other humans. It's like amazing. And I have a lot of fun there. And yes, there's a lot of things that can go wrong in those events. But you know what? The good to me is where I'm focused. And so I want us to think about the things that we do daily that can help us move forward. If you put the phone down, if you stop doing social media for 1 week, will it destroy your business? Will it improve your life? Will it hurt your life? I took a whole year off social media. I did it because I had to. I had to for several reasons. I had NDAs that was destroying my business, and those, that bled into my life, right? It was like, wow, I got locked out. I was at the top of the top, and I got burnt really bad. And then one day I was like, I'm done getting burnt. I'm done getting used. I got thrown to the wolves and the lions constantly. I was pushed to overperform and do impossible tasks until I burnt out. And I said, enough is enough, because then ultimately it was gonna cost me, because it was just destroying me. And so I left social media for a year. And I'm talking like I didn't post, I didn't look at it, I didn't think about it, I didn't care about it. I said, I'm done. Now, fortunately for me, I was able to do that. But unfortunately, it did cost me a tremendous amount of money. It cost me friends, caused me a lot of pain and anxiety. But as I went through that detachment, I felt a lot better. And I really started to live life, and I started to work on me, and it was amazing. Now, I'm not saying you have to do that. And I'm definitely saying be aware so that you don't have to get to the point where you're spilling over and you hit your threshold and you're like, oh my gosh, and then you break down and then you have to leave like I left. I'm tired of trying to perform for something that doesn't appreciate me. Why would we do that? And that's social media. The news is embedded in that. There's politics embedded in that. And it's feeding an agenda. It's feeding a market. It's feeding off of people's fears and anxieties. And so I want you to just be aware of these things in social media and in your life that will help you become a better person and live stress-free. And I'm talking about this because I'm going through it in my life. Like, I have my ups and downs. I'm starting to get used to these things, and they shift as you get older. There's different phases of your life that you experience is almost the same thing, but it hits a little differently, if you will. And so, again, it's where are you putting your time and your attention? And recently, after seeing, these big social media content creators talk about how the algorithm is not favoring them because they got big followers, and they're starting to realize and they're starting to see that if I don't spend my time on this platform, I have my team do it, or if we're not spending the big bucks into social media, we're not going to get favored. We're not going to get our content out there. It's not going to be exposed or recommended. I'm seeing them talk about it, and you're going to start seeing this too, because it's proof that the algorithm doesn't favor us unless we spend our money or our time. And I started doing this little experiment. I teamed up with a bunch of people, and we started talking about having the conversation, right? About, okay, if this is true, if social media and the algorithm is really money hungry right now, and I mean, actually not even just money hungry, just greedy for our time and greedy for the money, let's do a little experiment. A lot of the feedback we got from other people having success with social media, because remember, they're gonna let some people have the success because they want to set an example to get you to think, oh, well, they crossed the finish line and made success, and they're going for a next level here. They've leveled up. Well, I could do that too. Because there has to be some possibility. So something has to be put out there and made an example of for you to believe that it's true, that it could work, for you to chase it. Don't forget that. So some of these people are like, well, maybe I was favored, right? We didn't throw money at it. This one person was like, they grew like 160,000 followers in 3 months on Instagram by posting 2 reels a day. That's it. No specific time, no specific hashtags, just 2 reels a day, and making sure they're engaging in comments when they come in, and they're not it's a brand new Instagram account. They're not following anybody. They don't follow anybody back, and they just let the algorithm push it, and they feed it 2 reels a day. That's it. I was like, okay. And we've seen this duplicate a few times, actually. Different people too. So I was like, all right, let's do this experiment. So I'm one of them in this experiment where we're testing this, and my Instagram and I'm excited about this too because I want you to follow it. I'm excited about it. So I just created the official Instagram account for the Podcast in the Rough. So instead of going to Zebulon Thomas on Instagram, if you've been following me, I'm now able to post all of my podcast micro clips on the Podcast in the Rough on Instagram. So it's really just the handle is the Podcast in the Rough. So check it out. Go follow it, please. It'd be awesome. And I'm posting all of the clips from each episode. And I like it because it really is the place for me to post all my podcast micro clips. And I like seeing it unfold because I love podcasting. And it allows me to free up my Zebulon Thomas Instagram for posting more of things that are not related to the podcast that is more personal for me. I want to shift into that realm. If I'm going to use social media, I want to start sharing stuff in my personal life and just share that and see what it does. And then if it doesn't work out, then I'm just like, hey, I'm out of social media. I don't want it. But I have not been having the traction that they say I would have. Now, it's still early to tell. I'm going to do this for at least 30 days. We're not even that close. Do it for those 30 days on social media, see what it does. I'm not stressing over it either. And I'm sharing this with you because I want to give you ideas. But I've been posting 2 reels a day. It's very simple. I've made a quick template that I can, put the audiogram on and the title and do a little something in the description. And my goal is to get followers to this Instagram account. My goal is to start conversations in the comments because I don't get those. So I want to talk in there. So I'm engaging in the comments. I'm starting the conversation on these reels. And I want them to ultimately then shift into the YouTube channel or to go over and subscribe to the podcast or maybe even join the Podcast Community Mastermind group because it's free and we can geek out over podcasting because that feeds my purpose. And so I figured, you know what? My ZT Films and my Zebulon Thomas, those 2 accounts, I've grown them a little bit. They kind of hit a plateau. The algorithm's not favoring them. They're very old accounts too. So I figured let's start a new one. And I follow a lot of people, but this new one, I don't follow anybody. It's just strictly for me to feed content to. And I don't even look. I don't even scroll the feeds on this account either. I'm testing to see if the algorithm is actually going to give me exposure. And it has not been. I follow the account from a few different other accounts in my partner accounts. We follow it. So the following currently on there is literally my partner accounts, my accounts, and some of my family's accounts, just to have something going on. If I didn't have anybody following me, like if I wasn't following my account and my family wasn't and my partners weren't, this account so far would have no followers. And so it's proving to me that this method doesn't really work. Like they're saying Reels is the hottest thing to post on Instagram. I'm just talking about Instagram. We're not talking about TikTok, YouTube. Those are other strategies. But Instagram, Reels is supposed to be the hottest thing you could do. Like they're saying beyond anything else, Reels. I personally feel as a strategist, you're going to get more traction from stories. Someone asked me the other day, well, why is my content not getting out to some of these people that follow me then? Well, think about it. They're following probably 400 people. They might be following 1,000 people, 2,000 people. So out of all those people that are posting content that they're following, how does it know to show them your stuff? I mean, imagine trying to look through 1,000 pieces of mail every day. You're going to miss some things. And then more mail comes in every day. So the things you might have missed on Monday, by Tuesday and Wednesday, you're so engulfed in mail, you're sitting in a pile that you can't get to it all. So then you just move on to let's just go to the next day. Right? So that's what social media is. That's why they say you got to post. You got to keep posting. You got to get it out there. No, you got to build a community and you got to build a connection and a relationship with the people that follow you that you're trying to engage with, and make it more personal, and get them to say, you know what? I don't need to follow thousands of people. I just need to follow these 4 or 5 or 10 people that really make me excited. How many shows do you watch on Netflix? Are you a binge watcher? How many shows are you engaged in this month or this week? Right? And the favorite show is going to get priority. You're like, oh, I can't wait to watch this. And you're usually binge watching that. And you get sad when it runs out, when the episode's over, or the season's over. So, and if it's a scheduled, like where it's like, oh, you can only catch this episode on these days and these times. Well, guess what? You're going to have your food and your popcorn, or you're going to be comfortable and have your favorite cozy or whatever it is. And you're going to be sitting in front of that TV at that time, or in front of your device at that time. You're going to catch that. And that's why they still do those methods. So yes, there's some leisurely thing to social media and the things we engage in, like, hey, get it on your time. Listen, you know why subscriptions are big? Subscriptions are big because listen, if you're not a subscription, you're just on social media browsing for someone's content, you're just getting exposed to all this stuff, including fake news. But when you subscribe to somebody, you're literally subscribing to them because you want to only see their content, and you're dedicated to them, and you want to go inside this bubble, right? And you don't want to get influenced by other things because you're subscribed to this. So don't just subscribe to everything. Subscribe to the things that you know that you're going to be engaged with. So think about your prospects and your followers and how you want to engage in them, how you want to build this community, the conversations you want to have with them, and then think about the conversations you're having with your friends, your partner, and your children. How is social media serving us? And how could it be affecting us? And heck, how could it be destroying you? And hopefully not. But I bring this up because this is your ticket. As I said earlier in this episode, this is your ticket to living a more wonderful, healthier, happier life. And it's by having the conversation, and I'm starting it. Listen, if something bothers me, I'm going to share it on my podcast because this is what my podcast is about. I'm going to talk about it. If I'm going through mental health and I'm trying to help myself get better, I'm going to share that. And I have been. And I'm sharing it because I want to speak to people that are also suffering or dealing with mental health, and they're wondering why. How did I get here? Or they know exactly how they got here, and they're upset about it. And they're like, how do I fix it? Or they want to sit in that space. And I know we want to sit in this space because even though it's painful, it's also comforting. It's also the space that we've been in so long that we just know it so much that we want to sit here. But I'm telling you, we cannot stay here. This is not where we're supposed to be. And so we have to keep pushing for the light. We have to keep pushing and pulling and grinding until we get better. And again, remind yourself, this is the easiest thing I could say, and hopefully it hits home with you if you're dealing with mental health. If you work out and you work out long enough, you will see results. And maybe that exact thing is what you need to go work out, go walk, go do some exercises. Because here's what I'm saying. Just like with mental health, the more you work on it, the more you get better at it, the more you come out of it, the more you get stronger. So when you combine that with actual workouts, physical activities, you will prevail. And here's why I say that. Because months ago, when I was at my lowest, and I've had a lot of these, I was like, you know what? I'm going to change and make some shifts right now because I feel like I can't, but I can. Why not? Oh, I'm depressed. Why not go take a walk? That's my depression saying don't do it. Or I can't do this because I have all these responsibilities and I have all this stuff on my calendar and I just can't do it. I don't have the time. No. I'm not going to lose myself in the process. So what I do, I said, every single day I'm going to work out. Every single day I'm going to feed my mind something, even if I don't believe it, even if my mind's fighting against it. I'm going to read something positive. Hold a smile on your face for 3 minutes. It'll make you feel so good. Yeah, well, BS. Oh, wow, it kind of did make me feel a little bit different. No, I'm going to fight against it, right? Go take a walk. You'll feel so stress-free. No, but it did work. And I told myself, listen, as I battle to get better mentally, and I learned these tools, and I have the people helping me to become a better person because I'm experiencing social media burnout and depression, anxiety, and life is just, it's different after the pandemic, right? We're all trying to rebuild. I'm not going to lie. We're all trying to rebuild in some way, in so many ways, whether it's your relationship with your significant other, your kids, your family, yourself, your finances, your career. I mean, it's all upside down. We're trying to get our foot back on the ground, and that's okay. But I figured, you know what? Every single day I'm going to work on the one thing that I can control because there's a lot of stuff I cannot control in my life. And a lot of things that I feel like I'm overwhelmed, I just don't have the energy for it. But the things I can control, what I feed my mind, what I spend my time on, how much I work out, what I feed my body, how much sleep I get, how much time I take with my family. I could put that as a priority and say, enough is enough. I'm going to do this. I don't care about the consequences of all the other stuff falling apart. Let the chips fall where they may. I need to spend time with my family and myself and work on me. Because as I get better, everyone gets better. You can't serve others if you're not serving yourself. You can't be there for others if you're not there for yourself. You can't help others if you have no energy left in you because you haven't refilled. You can't do that. So every day I've been doing small workouts. I've been improving my mental health. I've been taking the time to do, whether it's a cold plunge, a cold shower, a hot sauna, whatever I can get my hands on, even if it's granola throughout the week, meaning whatever I can get my hands on, I will. Like maybe today I ran, maybe tomorrow I walk, maybe the next day I get a sauna. I go over and I do the ice bath. Oh, I can't do those things. So guess what? What do? I stick my face in a bowl of cold water in the morning, or I sit there and I read a book, or I do 10 minutes of stretching, 30 minutes of stretching, deep breathing, all these little things. But every single day I'm going at this, and I'm not doing it because I'm trying to hit a goal. I'm doing it because this is just maintenance. And guess what? As you start to, you're doing this, and as you start to improve your finances, right? Or you're trying to find that career job, you're trying to find a job, or as you're trying to build up your mental health and get the help you need and come out of this funk, as you're working on your body and yourself and your nutrition, your relationships are getting better. And guess what? As you get out of the funk, not only do you get out of the funk, but you also get out of the funk and you have this fit body, or you have this job and now you have a fit body, or you have this job and you have this great ideal lifestyle that you can now spend the money you're making on a better, source of food and more activities, and you start to build back up. It's about building back up. Look at the things you can control in your life, even if you feel down, you feel defeated, and work on those, right? Work on those. Maybe you're going through a really bad relationship situation. You can still work on yourself. You can work on understanding or forgiving or moving forward or looking for something new. You can work on those things because as that falls apart or as it rebuilds into something new, you become better and stronger, right? If it's the job, we don't have the finances. What do we do? What do we do? It's about working on you and spending more time together. It's like, okay, listen, we're going to work on those things. We're going to do our best, but we have to protect this. This is our relationship. This is our existence. This is who we are. We go through this together. Maybe maybe it is mental health. And you're like, listen, I don't have good days. I might be having a really bad day, an off day. I don't know why. But you know what I do know? I know at 3 o'clock I'm going for this walk. I know at 5 o'clock I'm hitting the gym. I know at 6 a.m. I'm doing something. I'm going to do that cold plunge. I'm going to shock my body that way. I'm going to wake up. I'm going to do it. I'm going to eat the better food, even though I'm comforting with food and I go to the junk food because it makes me feel different. Well, guess what? You're going for an emotional shift. You're going something to shift you out of that state, a state change. You can get the same state change by eating better food. It might not be the change you want. It might be the sugar rush or the caffeine rush, but it might just be gut health, make you feel better, right? I want you to think about these things and how to improve yourself, your mental well-being, whether you're going through it or not. If you're not affected mentally by mental health, amazing. Don't go there. Continuously apply what I've just shared to your life now and watch your life just really light up. And I want to go back to this last but not least. Again, I created this social media Instagram account, the Podcast in the Rough, the official account for this podcast. I'm excited about it. Again, I'm not worried about the numbers. I'm looking at it, I'm testing it. I'm calling BS on it, but I'm there. But I'm excited about it because I'm looking at every episode that I do now. I'm looking at all the time and energy I put in this because this gives me purpose. I love to do podcasting. I got all the equipment I've ever wanted. I'm in my zone and I'm like, what can I share on this outlet? And it's where I can experiment and I can share different things. And who knows, I'll find my footing here. Like I've been talking about podcasting because I've done it for others. I've done it for myself and I love that. But that doesn't mean that's where it's always going to be. And that's why I'm sharing a little bit about my mental health journey. And eventually I'm going to find exactly what it is that I want to do with this podcast. And it's going to just be amazing. But right now I'm leaving out these little gold nuggets that I can look back on and go, that was a great episode. Someone can share it. My kids can listen to it and be like, wow, that was some pretty good information you put there. It inspired me. Thanks, Dad. Yeah. I'm also showing my kids or my family or my friends that you can get on a microphone and share some things and it's exciting. It's fun and you can do it with minimal budget or you can do it by spending a lot of money. So I want you to consider looking at your life and the things you do and how social media plays a role in that. And if it feeds your purpose, if it excites you and it's something that you love to do, then that's okay. But the moment that it doesn't, the moment it gives you anxiety, and I'm not talking about like pushing against you or giving you anxiety like, man, I got to do better. Like that's a little different. But really when it's draining you, that's when you need to look at it differently and step away. Take some time. Take that break if you need it. Comment below. Spend some time with me in the comments and let's talk about this. We got to start the conversation. I appreciate everything you guys have done and I want to run this one little micro ad by you just to say thank you and let you know how you can support the Podcast in the Rough.
All right, if you're enjoying this podcast episode, I would love for you to give me a rating and review about this podcast by heading over to thepodcastintherough.com and scrolling to the bottom of the page and leaving us a review. Or if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please leave a star rating and a review. It would help us reach more people and get them to learn about the Podcast in the Rough. Thank you so much for your support. I appreciate it. If you'd like to support this podcast, buy me a coffee by heading over to buymeacoffee.com/intherough and become part of the adventure by showing your support and taking advantage of any one of our exciting membership tiers.
The Podcast in the Rough.
And there you have it. That is all we have for episode 150. This is exciting. I look forward to talking to you next week for another great episode. Take care. This is the Podcast in the Rough.